Joyce, thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Alan.
What do you make of all these arguments? And you voted yesterday to knock off the government's nominee as Deputy Speaker, and you're destabilising and you're a ginger group. What do you make of all this?
We're doing our very best to make sure that the government, the Morrison government, remains in power. That's the outcome I want. That's the outcome I'm fighting for. I've given most of my life, my adult life, to make sure that I didn't join any other party but the National Party. Joined it in Charleville. I believe in the ethos of the National Party, that a person can start at the bottom, Alan and Peter, and transcend through the economic and social stratification of life to their highest level, limited only by their innate ability. And the most likely place they'll do that, if they're not born with the money and they're not born with the education, and they're not born with the backing of a strong family name, they'll probably do it through small business. That's the sort of party I believe in, and I talk about it when I talk about the weatherboard and iron, the weatherboard and iron house, the house that we have to reflect on and look at the people inside and say they are the people we're in there to fight for. And that's the only people I'm in there to fight for, and that's what I'll continue to fight for. And I wish Michael all the very, very best. And I want Mr Morrison to win the next election, because I am very concerned about a nation that is led by a government whose principles are ones of quashing of the inspiration that should come from the person who wants to get ahead in life, who wants to make a break of it, who doesn't want to be tied up in government regulation, who wants to have the capacity not to wear the corporate uniform but to wear their own uniform, to live by their own corporate manual. That's the kind of nation that I want, and I will fight for it. And if Michael can take us there, then good on Michael, and I'll support Michael. And I hope Mr Morrison can do the same. But
just to interrupt you there, Barnaby,
just
to interrupt you there, and Peter, the point I think we're making is that Scott Morrison's got a stake in this, because if the National Party have these kinds of swings against them at the next election, and seats are lost, and they're now on the margins now, and Barnaby's hearing this, you and I are hearing this in the bush, we went to Dirranbandi and everywhere, then Scott Morrison can't win government. That's the guts of it here, Barnaby.
Yeah, look, I understand that, Alan. I've got ears, and you are not respecting the voter if you don't tell them what you're hearing whilst you walk down Peel Street. You're not respecting the voter if you don't tell them what you're hearing when you're walking to the corner pub at St George. You're not respecting the voter if you don't tell them what you're hearing when you're walking through the streets of Charters Towers, or when you're walking up the street of Rockhampton. You've got to listen to people, and you've got to reflect on it. You've got to take your medicine, and when they dish out your medicine, you've got to accept it, and you've got to reflect on it, and you've got to do a better job. In this time where people are dealing with bushfires, they're dealing with droughts, now some of them are dealing with floods, and they're dealing with the bank managers screaming at them that they want their accounts squared up. They want to make sure that they don't have to answer to Credit Bureau and explain why their account is out of order, in arrears. They're looking for strong National Party voice, a strong, unequivocal National Party voice. And I respect the role of the Liberal Party. And it's funny you brought up Isabella Marion Dorothea McKellar. That was her name. She actually lived at Point Piper. She lived at Point Piper, had a house on Pitzwater. She was reflecting on her time at her brother's place near Gunnedah, and she wrote it at the age of 19, homesick in England, about my country, and that the issue is there that we have this symbiotic relation that's got to be understood between the urban areas and the country, and it's great that you brought up My Country and Dorothea McKellar, because that is a classic example of it, the understanding of regional areas from an urban constituency, and the role of the National Party is to make sure that that rural constituency, those people in the weatherboard and iron, are well and truly heard and fought for. And if you don't do that, then Pauline Hanson's One Nation, shoes and fishes, independence.
Well, can I just take you off on that point?